All right, everybody, here we are on yet another edition of the ReEducation Camp podcast. My name is Colin Miller, being joined alongside, as always, by the incomparable Ms. Karen O'Toole. Karen, it is Sunday, July 7th, year of our Lord 2024, 4th of July weekend. And I was trying not to be too cynical this morning when I woke up. I don't know. I have just been in sort of a weird mood
A
this
funk.
past, yes, not even a funk, or maybe it is a funk. I don't know. It's one of those moods where it's like, what's the point of anything, really? Like, what is the point of getting out of bed in the morning? Like, to do what exactly? To go where? And then I went on this spiral of, why did I move to Florida? Like, why did I make this decision? Why am I here? Why did I choose this? What should I do? Like, besides besides getting up in the morning and pouring my coffee and sitting on the couch with a purring cat in my lap, like, what else is there really? Like, where do you go? What do you do? How do you meet people? What do you even say to people, really? Like, how do you even I feel like I don't even know how to interact with people anymore at this point in my time. Like, what is there to talk about? Like, what do you bring up, the issues of the day? Does anybody know what the issues of the day are? Is it Trump? Is it Biden? Is that it feels
Is
like our
he
entire world just revolves around like these two geriatric entities in Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I know we talked about this on last week's episode very heavily, but that's sort of, I know I was all over the place there, but that's sort of my mood right now. It's like, what is all this exactly? What should I do? Where should I go? And usually I come to you for answers because I look at you and and it's like Karen has the answers within her. I know she does. It's like, I'm certain of this more than I'm certain about myself.
the oracle of the coal region?
Yeah, and the Oracle of the Coal region, and that's really like why we're doing this podcast mainly. It's not
It's
for
just
anybody else. It's really
therapy.
like cathartic for me. I know it's cathartic for you a lot of the times. And anyway, here we are. Like I said, 4th of July weekend. Not to say it was a bad weekend per se. I was lighting off some fireworks in my driveway last night. That was fun. Some of the blooming roses, those
Okay,
the little
okay.
spinny
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, once again, we are here back at 4th of July. I feel like, from what I recall, I believe I don't know what the anniversary of us recording is, but I feel like we definitely did a show around 4th of July last year. So it's almost as if, like, what you're saying, it's almost like a Groundhog's Day experience, because every year, um much like the film, he goes and he's going to the Groundhog Day with the media to cover the Groundhog Day event, Punxsutawney. I each year return to a small town in Pennsylvania for 4th of July for their fireworks display. And like you said, when you really sit back and think about it, like, I just here I am each and every year getting a little bit. I mean, different from the film, but every year it's as if, I'm getting older. I mean, in the film, at least he didn't get it older every year. I mean, he, should have been excited about that. But like you said, it's kind of like, it almost feels like Groundhog's Day. I feel like for a lot of people, it's just okay. It's the same, shit, same day. And like you said, back at the 4th of July fireworks once again, doing the same old stuff. And like you said, there's a lot of monotony in life. And I think the more that you sit back and consider it, like Ferris Bueller tells us to do, as he tells us we might be missing out on it. But in some ways, it's almost makes you a little neurotic if you sit back and you think too much about the monotony of life. Like you said, like, why am I getting up and doing this? uh what is really the point? And I know I've said it past on the show, like, I think a lot of it is because you have to find something outside of yourself and to give of yourself. I feel like that is where people find the most most fulfillment, the most meaning is to, whether it's to commit to a spouse and commit your life to another person, commit to, volunteering at a church and to giving to people, to have your own children. I think when we live for ourselves and we're so caught up in just seeking our own pleasure, um, ultimately that is what we find. We find that it's pretty monotonous, it's pretty empty, it's pretty shallow. And I think that's why you see an epidemic of suicides and mental health crises, because we're being messaged constantly, what we're being told by the media and what we're being told by social media and what we're being told by everyone is to seek our own pleasure, to live for ourselves, to get the most
Get the
for what
next
we
toy.
can,
I
get the
always feel
next
like when I
toy.
get this
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
toy, that's gonna fill that hole
Something.
or that gap. Like, then I'll be happy once I can get that new guitar or whatever the case may be.
Consume and
But
obey.
right, like from They Live.
Yes.
Um, but as I started off this podcast with, we were talking a little bit about how there was a epidemic of
Yeah.
folks heading to Florida, heading to Texas. People moving from the West Coast, moving from California to Florida, moving from northern states to Florida. Of course, I moved to Pennsylvania, and I was saying to you earlier, as of right now, I have no idea why the hell I did this. I mean, I remember at the time I
Mhm.
did it because it felt like there was some stuff going on. It
Yeah.
felt like almost like it was like an escape from New York situation, although
Yeah.
in this case it was escape from Pennsylvania. And I just assumed that eventually I was going to be shut out of society in some fashion
Yeah.
from not taking experimental mRNA injections. Not that I really participated in society a whole lot to begin with, but I felt
There would have
like,
been no discernible difference.
right. And that's what I told people during the pandemic. It's like my life really didn't change all that much. Like I never went out anyway. The only difference is in my place of business, which I'm still going to every day, there aren't any customers because I
Mhm.
worked in a dispensary.
Mhm.
So we didn't allow any customers in during the majority of the pandemic. So that was really the main change, but other than that, there wasn't like a big difference for me personally. But, here I am in Florida, going on 3 years now last month. June 21st, I think I moved into my house. I bought a house down here. My folks bought a house down here. We all live down here, and I'm happy for them. It's good for them, but what the hell am I doing? I mean, I'm just a single guy with a cat. I've got a big backyard that I don't know what to do with. I have plenty of ideas of what I could do with it. I could put a big bird cage over it. I can put an in-ground pool. There's a lot of nice things I can do with this land, believe me. However, you need a large amount of cash for such extravagant ventures, of which at the present time I do not have. And I was saying to you, unless you've got millions in the bank, really, what's the point of anything if you don't have millions uh saved in the bank? That's the cynical mindset
You're
that I'm
kind
in
of
right
right,
now.
though. I think that you're really onto something. Well, number one, first, it's not just you. There are plenty of people. I was reading articles actually, Business Eye Insider, NBC News, a lot of people dealing with Florida regret and maybe Texas regret too, where they moved to Florida, they moved to Texas, they followed Joe Rogan. They thought that Joe Rogan was going to lead a resistance against the rest of the states, that him and Governor DeSantis were going to
Yeah.
be freedom fighters, and yeah, that we were going to be living in like like East and West Berlin situation here, and that's not exactly what has transpired. Um, Maybe I'm not saying, I'm not ruling it out. I don't we don't have a crystal ball here, but like you said, there's a lot of people who moved for the Florida dream and moved to Texas and maybe found it's a little bit hot. Maybe they're not really happy where they're at, especially if you moved from like California or something. I mean, California has exceptional weather. I mean, if you're moving from basically a Mediterranean climate, the only Mediterranean climate outside of like the Mediterranean in Southern California, to Texas, to Florida, to Idaho, where you have like more extreme weather conditions. Yeah, sure. I mean, maybe your kids aren't being put in dresses daily, but the weather is a big part of why people live on the coast. It's why I think a lot of us kind of forget in this modern era, like why exactly people live in the places they do. Like, why is the East Coast of the United States so populous? Well, of course, like we landed, a lot of the first colonies were developed there, but also because of the weather, the extremes. I mean, Pennsylvania, we do not have an extreme weather situation. I mean, we did just have a almost tornado in my area about a couple months, like 2 months ago. But for the most
Oh
part, we
yeah.
we never see extremes in weather, and we have some of the most abundant natural water source, fresh water sources in the world in the eastern, in the eastern location near the Great Lakes. So like you said, I think a lot of us, we're so detached from the natural world. We're so detached from agriculture. It's like we've kind of forgotten why people exist in the places and the population centers that they do. But like you said, I think a lot of people are finding that the Florida dream might actually be a nightmare for them. But I don't think that you're saying it's a nightmare. I think you're just
No.
doing, yeah, you're just doing some self-exploration. It's kind of like the song, the Talking Head song. Like, this, where is my beautiful house? Where is my beautiful, like, how did I get here? You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you just wake up some days and you're like, how did I get here? How am I this old? And like, what am I doing? Like
I'm going to be
I completely,
35 this August. I'm going to be 35 years old. I
we're
need to
both
get on
August
some sort.
babies.
Yeah, yeah, Virgo, which is the best sign, the most intelligent, superior sign out of all the zodiacs, of course. But yeah, I'm in this sort of a funk as you described it right now. You know what the funny thing is? A lot of people move to Florida because they like to be on the water or near the water, or they like to go to the beach. I hate the beach. I've always hated the sun. I hate the water. I
I
don't even
hate
really
the
know how to
sun.
swim, to be honest with
I
you.
hate
I always
vitamin D.
no, I am actually, I like the sun more than I did when I was a child. I hated
Yeah.
the sun as a kid, but I do love being out walking, going for walks in the sun. I'm used to the weather now. My blood thinned out. The excessive heat and humidity doesn't even really bother me as much as it would have in years past.
Yes, yeah.
It's just sort of a predicament of like, all right, what do I do here now? What am I supposed to do with myself now? With my personal life, career wise, which there is no career really. It's just you know jobs, just like remote jobs, because God knows I'm not waking up early to drive to some building somewhere. So I'm sticking with the remote gigs. uh what what is there in life? Like what should I be pursuing? What should I be seeking out? You know that U2 song, I still haven't found what I'm looking
I'm
for.
looking for
That's kind of like my anthem. So
mantra. That's your anthem
yeah.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for something that I haven't found yet. I don't know if this is a thing, a person, a state of consciousness that I'm seeking here. And ultimately, like I said, I'm really hoping that you can guide me toward
You're gonna
whatever.
hate what I have to say. Colin is Everybody listening that identifies with Colin is gonna hate what I'm about to say.
Oh, great.
But what you are looking for is godliness with contentment is great gain, is what the Bible says. And it's, as I have instructed Colin in the past and will continue to do so. And as I say to Colin, as I say to him, I point the finger, two fingers back at myself. But it's really, you need to find contentment where you're at, because as you said, we there's always going to be somebody or something that's greater or better or smarter. And we have what's called the hedonic treadmill that psychologists have studied, where, so Collin might sit there and say, well, if I made double what I make, I would be more content. I would be happy if only I could make, or if only if I could make $1 million a year, right? $1 million, which is great, insane amount of money, right? If I could make
Just
a
a couple
million,
mil. I
just a
I'm
come.
just looking for a couple mil
You're like, I don't even
transferred
need per year.
into my bank. Yeah, I don't even need
Yes.
per year.
Even
Just
if
give
you
me 2
got,
mil.
even if you got that $2 million, let's take that for a great example. You get the $2 million. It hits your bank account tomorrow. Within a month, you're going to be calling me and you're going to be saying, Karen, I don't know what it is. I'm in a funk. I don't know what to do. Even though you have all this money, even though you thought that money would be life changing, which it would be, don't get me wrong. Like, it'll solve some of your money issues, but money only solves money problems. And if the problems are not financial, then you're still going to have those problems, you know? And so even like, I think people, even if you look at like relationships, if I could just have a spouse. I remember my freshman roommate, just everything in her, and I've met other people like this, but it was like, if I could just get married, and we were only, I had just turned 18, like literally just turned 18. And it was just like, if I could just get married, then everything, it was the panacea for life. It was just like everything is going to fall into place, like I just need that person and just to get married, and that's going to be it. And everything in the world is going to be sparkling and roses and unicorns and rainbows. And the truth is that's not true whatsoever. Like, you need to work on yourself. You need to work on that contentment. I've even said this to my husband. We were listening to a radio show the one time, financial radio show, and the guy called in and was saying that his wife, like the wife wanted him to buy stuff for her. And she said to the husband, it's your job to make me happy. And my husband said, yeah, he's right. Like, it's my job to make you happy. And I told my husband, absolutely not. It is not your job to make me happy. It's not your job to disrespect me and come home drunk every day and beat me and not work. You know what
Once
I'm
in a
saying?
while.
Yes.
I think you
Yes,
need that
yeah.
every
He gets
once in a
he gets a
while.
free pass once a year. But I'm saying, like, it's not fundamentally your job, like, to make somebody happy. Like, it's not your job. It's not necessarily your job to make them miserable. But I'm saying, if that person cannot find contentment and joy, within their own, their own brain chemistry and their own spirituality, with their own life, you're not going to solve that problem for them, like, you're not going to. So I think, like, as you were saying, I think it's that you need to sit back. I know that Colin was attempting to do a gratitude journal, if I can share that with everybody.
Yeah. Oh, you can share that. I may have
Yes,
talked about it
but
on here. I can't
yes,
remember.
yeah. But sitting back, and like I said, this is something I struggle with on a daily basis. On a daily basis, I'm like, I hate this job. I hate that I have to work. I hate everything. Like you said, why can't I just get a solid $2 million in my bank account tomorrow? That would make everything perfect. But I realize that I have pretty much everything I need. I have a very blessed life despite a lot of the things I've been through. And I'm very content. I'm very happy. And in the past, I think, speaking of the hedonic treadmill, and like I said, the hedonic treadmill is that your brain is going to return to homeostasis. It wants to be in balance. So even if you get a huge hit of dopamine, it's going to swing back, right? And what's happening right now is we have all these cheap sources of dopamine. So it's like just hitting the jack. It's hitting it's pulling the lever at the slot machine. So it's like, let me just go on Instagram and pull that reel on TikTok, let me just eat some more of that McDonald's. Let me have another Starbucks drink. Let me
I haven't
watch
had
a
McDonald's
movie.
in a
Let me
while.
watch pornography. Yeah, whatever it is that is your source of cheap dopamine, you're just pulling the lever. But then your brain chemistry needs to balance itself out. So a lot of people are having these mental health struggles because they're getting this cheap, fast hits, but they're also getting this pendulum swing backwards. And I'm not a neuroscientist, so there is a really good book called Dopamine Nation if you want to know a little bit more about this, especially if you struggle with any forms of addiction. Really, really great book to listen to or read. But what I was saying is, you're going to get back to that homeostasis. Like, you're going to, the things that you think are going to make you happy and bring you the most joy are eventually, you're going to not be that. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows, if I could just buy a house, if I could just get married, if I could just move here, and then you do those things, and within a month or two, you're kind of just back to the same old, same old. So I think it's kind of just like cultivating that contentment and that joy and that gratitude, and trying to like remember that every day and trying to start your morning with that. And just remembering each and every day is a gift, and that's really all we can do. And like you said, it's not, I think it's a day by day struggle. That is, man is appointed mortal sorrow. And I think, even if, like you said, even if, but you did make a good point about, like, pretty much if you don't have millions of dollars, it's like, what are we doing? Like, what are we?
I see. I recognize that I would still be miserable and bitching and moaning and complaining.
But at
However,
least you'd
I'd
have a
be
pool.
right. I'd be like on my turtle float in my in-ground pool underneath my bird cage in this enormous backyard that I have for no reason. So, at the very least, there would be that. But it's hard to keep up with the whole gratitude thing. I was doing it every morning, and I was trying to just it was nothing overly complex that I was writing down either. It was just simple things like, "Oh, I'm thankful that I have limbs. I'm thankful that I can breathe fresh air into my lungs. I'm thankful that I can feel the warmth of the sun on my skin." But then what happens is, once the weekend is over and you wake up and it's time for that grind, whatever that grind is for you. The grind is different for different people. You know, I feel like I have it better than most people because I'm just like rolling out of bed and, going in front of my laptop. Although that could be hell for some people. And I feel like
Yeah.
maybe that is hell for me, actually. I feel like pretty much anything is hell. Pretty much
Anything. Yeah.
anything where you're beholden to like an
Yes.
outside entity, whether that be a corporation, a company, a person. I feel like that's hell. I'm searching for like this freedom, like this complete and total freedom. I want like all strings just like snipped away. You know what I mean?
Well, I think there's like, it goes back to like the natural laws and like rights of man, where you're talking about, like, this is really so much of our work, and we've talked about this before, where it's like so much of our work lives and the structure of society is so new. It is so fresh. I mean, it was only 150 years ago, most people were like farmers, or they worked for themselves, or they were blacksmiths, and they were, they weren't working for a Carnegie or, a Rockefeller. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Right.
so much of this is just a result of the modern era. And in some ways, I feel like it just doesn't work for a lot of us, and it's not working for a lot of people. And maybe we saw, for a short time, I always point out to people, because I'm a coal region fanatic, but like, you lived in the company. I mean, when people like don't understand, like, you lived in a house that was owned by the coal mine, and then you were paid by the coal mine to work, and you worked 6 days a week. You only had off on Sunday. And then you, not only did you live in their company house, but you had to shop at the company store where they set the prices, and pretty much they owned you. It was like, imagine Amazon, which is going to be the future, owns you. You pay rent to Amazon, you buy everything from Amazon, and you work at Amazon, which is pretty much where we're headed. And so these people work 6 days a week. And what would happen was, if, okay, so imagine you had a wife and kids, you're 35 years old, you die in the mines, they knock on your door and they say, you're getting kicked out unless you can give us somebody to work. And you would send your 10-year-old son to go work, and he would be finished school at that point, and he would go start working in the mines so that you could stay in that home. And I mean, that's how people lived in the 1900s. And that was not exactly uncommon. And that was, if you read about the Jungle by Upton Sinclair, the meatpacking industry, a lot of these were kind of like the immigrants. And hey, you could say that a lot of immigrants live a pretty crazy conditions nowadays also. But so I think like a lot of people just like point to like the 1950s and 60s and they're like, oh, this is the way, pension and this and that. It's like, no, 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 no. That was a very, very small microcosm, very small era of time, um, where people lived like that and where
I want to
life
go
was
back
like that.
though.
Yes,
I
yeah.
want to go back because here's why. You really didn't have to aspire to anything great back then in order to have a decent living and to have a nice home and to have a family. Like for example, if let's say instead of 2024 it's 1954 right now. You could just work at a record shop or something and you could have a nice home and have and be able to provide for a family of four just working just with a simple job at a record shop or a music store or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? You didn't really have to
Yeah.
have any sort of uh grandiose aspirations. Where as of right now in today's modern times, if you want to have what's what's even a lot, what do you consider a lot of money nowadays?
What would I consider? I would consider, so are we talking for one person?
Uh I don't know. Maybe enough to have like two kids and a wife. Like what is a decent salary
I would say
per year?
$150,000 in this, I
150,000.
would say for this time, post COVID, where the prices are, rents have gone up 30%. I mean, food is my personal food budget has gone up almost double, just looking at, my car insurance, my home insurance, across the board, what the prices have changed since 2019. I would say 150,000 is like what would be considered. And I don't think I'm alone. I just read a statistic. It said most people consider, I think exactly the stats you were saying, like two children. I think most people are saying it's about $186,000 is what they would consider comfortable or
To
what they
get
would need to be.
what was the figure? 100 and
186,000. Yeah.
$186,000. You know the headaches that you have to be involved in today's day and
Mm-hmm.
age to get
Mm-hmm.
$186,000, the soul
You gotta,
sucking career
yes.
that you have to invest your entire being in to get that much money. There's there's no point in even having any of what I just laid out if you have to
Yeah.
give
Yeah.
that much of your being to
To
something that you care so little about just to get this fiat trash, and I
this
stress the word trash
trash
because
currency.
trash currency printed out of thin air by a private company. So you have to invest your all, most of your time, your mind, your body, and your soul uh, into some sort of career working for some entity to get that much fiat trash. It goes back to what I started out our conversation with. There's no point
There's
to anything. There really
there
isn't.
is no, well, you know what really gets me thinking about that too, is like I know I'm familiar with some people that like have a lot of money, like money that I can't even fathom, like to that point where it's like, is money even a real thing? Like
Like
it's just
FU money.
it's fu money. It's like definitely fu money. And sometimes I just think to myself, I'm like, what, like how, I know it's like that abundance, like you hear that like a manifestation BS, like, but I'm like,
Yes, the
how,
secret.
okay, these people are not geniuses. Like I know they're not geniuses. And I know that this money is like circulating out there. And I'm like, how do I just acquire that? Because at that point, I'm like, in my mind, like you said, like fiat currency almost is like witchcraft. Like it really does feel like
It's
witchcraft.
trash. It's garbage.
I'm like, isn't there some kind of spell? And I know that like I actually have seen this on Pinterest and I think this is a joke. I don't actually think you should like ascribe to this, but it's just like a money spell. Like it's like I will have this much money by this much time or whatever. Um but there is a part of me like you said, because like you think about how like just, it's all like zeros and ones. And like how Biden keeps canceling out all this random student debt. Like he's just like, all right, this is just gone.
Is
Bye.
he?
Like this is
I have all mine.
not yours,
No, yeah, except for
but
me.
there's like specific people, like specific certain scenarios where they actually have been able to get forgiveness. But he just like, just like whole cloth, like, oh, we're just gonna forgive this, we're gonna forgive that. And it's just like it doesn't even feel real. Like none of the money feels, I guess it's like Keynesian monetary policy, and it just doesn't feel as if it's real. So it's like, why am I, like, you, to your point, why am I killing myself? Not that I'm really killing. Let's be real, I'm not killing
Me
myself.
neither.
But why am I answering emails at 9 o'clock at night and dealing with this chronic stress that I'm going to get a phone call on a Saturday because of this fiat currency, like you said, because
Yeah.
of this nonsense. And like you said, once you start to think that way, it's so it really gets to be unhealthy. Like I, I
I can't
understand these
stop thinking
people.
that way though. And I blame a lot of this, I blame on Andrew Tate, because you can say a lot of things about that guy. I'm not saying that I ascribe to all of his philosophies and ways of living, but he laid out the concept of money perfectly in my mind. It's trash, literally, and the name of the game is to figure a way out of the matrix. How do I
Yeah.
acquire a lot of this trash so I can get out of the matrix? And it's so difficult to have a positive attitude when you understand how this system works. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're straining your eyes looking at some BS on a laptop, and there are children who have YouTube channels that have more money than you
Then the
will
Hawk
make.
Tuah girl just got paid 30 grand to just make an appearance in New York City. You
Yeah,
called that. You were like,
I
she's never gonna have to
told
work
you.
a day again. You were totally right.
I told you, just because she went out with her girlfriend and hung around Broadway and did a man on the street interview and talked about something lurid, therefore we're gonna reward that as a society. That I feel like
We
maybe
are going to reward that as a society.
I don't
That's
think we should be
exactly,
rewarding that though. I think
but
that she
that's our
should have to be
society.
she should be at the ice cream parlor scooping ice cream.
I thought you were
That's
gonna say she needs to be in prison.
no, I don't think
Oh, and I thought it was interesting that she, the very, very minuscule amount of time I spent looking at this, that she was declining. She was above doing an OnlyFans, though. That was beneath her. She
Oh, she'll
considered
get to that
herself.
point.
She'll get to that point. Yeah, she'll
Don't
get you.
worry.
She'll be spent. She'll buy a Lamborghini, and then she'll be like, "Ah, shoot, I need to get a freaking. I guess I do need to get on OnlyFans." But I wanted to say that too, Business Insider ran an article about, you were talking about like work, and Business Insider ran an article talking about this study that was done about the rise of meaningless work. And they were finding that 56% of people who said they found no meaning in their job also said they felt unfulfilled by it. By contrast, 88% of people who believed their job was meaningful said they were fulfilled by it. So they've also found that research has for decades found that job satisfaction and engagement track with whether someone can find meaning in their work, which makes a lot of sense. But they said in 2022 survey by Great Place to Work, a workplace culture firm that measures employee well-being, found that staff retention and job satisfaction were higher at companies where employees felt that their jobs had meaning. So what's important to us is that a lot of people, it says that people that work in like healthcare, social assistance, or education said that they do find a lot of meaning in their work. But in other sectors, it's like sales, media, communications, and real estate, they rated their jobs among the least meaningful. And they also talked about in many of those industries have begun to refer to their work as fake email jobs. And these are office jobs that largely involve sending emails without producing anything. And one anonymous worker recently told the online news site Bustle about his fake email job as a video producer. He said, I've gone weeks doing nothing to see how far I could push it. He told the site, the only reason I stopped is that I got bored, not because someone asked me to do something. Um, I kind of want to know what exactly he's doing and how much he's getting paid to do nothing. but um, but I agree
I
with
had one of
I
those
do
jobs
agree
for
with
a
that.
while.
Yeah, I do agree with that. But I think it goes back to a conversation that you and I had this week off the podcast. Colin had a little powwow this week about creation versus consumption. And I think that reading a little bit about that um, really highlights what we were talking about. And this idea for people that don't know is that we were talking earlier, you were talking about how, oh, if I buy this next guitar, or if I could just buy this house, I can buy this car, I can buy this thing. If I consume something, the consumption is therefore going to give me meaning. It's going to validate me. It's going to make me feel better about myself. It's going to mean I've arrived. But it's really that we as humans are more here and exist to create. And I really want to challenge this notion because I myself never considered myself a creative person. I am not a talented artist. I'm not a good musician. I am not, I'm pretty much not good at anything. I literally am that good at nothing. Okay. I have no real hobbies. Even when it comes to exercise, like the only thing I like to do is walking. I can walk for like days, but like I, I
That's
just
my favorite
don't.
too.
Yes, like there's just
It's
yeah.
peaceful. You feel
I
like you're
just yeah
getting,
yeah.
the blood flowing at least. You're engaging some muscles. You're out in
It's what we
nature.
were made to do, in my personal opinion. I think
I
everybody
agree.
needs a walking regimen of some kind, but what I was saying is, if you yourself don't consider yourself creative, well, sit back and think about how you felt the last time you made yourself a healthy meal, or like made a meal, or made something for somebody, or gave somebody a gift, or, just cleaned your home and made your home feel more homey, made, cleaned and lit a candle, like there's so many different ways for you to create. Maybe you had people over and you made them feel you created a safe and comfortable and welcoming space for them. Or maybe you created some joy, you made somebody laugh. Like there are so many ways, or like I said, you went and exercised, you created health for yourself. Like there are so many ways to create, and you need to think outside of the box and realize that every day you are choosing between consuming and creation. And, consuming, like you said, consuming is waking up in the morning and deciding to doom scroll and eat, and have horrible breakfast full of donuts or something. You know what I'm saying? And
A
every
nice
once in a while, you're
croissant.
gonna. I love croissants. That's like my
Nice
like number
flaky
one.
croissant and
But
a cup of coffee.
yes, and there are times for that pleasure. Food can be pleasurable, and that's fine. Um, but we all know that if you get up and you start the morning, and maybe you like you said, go for a walk, or you maybe write down, like you said, you have a gratitude journal, you're going to feel so much fuller and better than if you got up and just consumed TikTok. And so I think that people need to start realizing, like that guy was saying, he was not creating, he wanted to be a video producer, he wanted to create, but instead his job just became nonsense. It just became sending emails and doing whatever. And even my job, like you said about being beholden, there's times that like my job will drive me crazy, and there's things that drive me crazy. But there are times that like I'm able to create, and I can feel like I get such a satisfaction. Like if I made something that I'm really proud of, or I picked something, or I thought of something, or I produced something that was really meaningful to me, or took on a life of its own, or really resonated with people. So yeah, so I really think for most people, like sit back, and I think with like the healthcare, and like they said about the healthcare industry, like you're creating those connections with people. You're seeing people hopefully, made whole and sent home or reunited with their families. So I'm saying I think that maybe if that's not necessarily your job, I know for me, like I encouraged Colin, I was like, I've been really taking on making dinner every night, and I actually
Like a good
I
trad wife.
like a good trad wife would. I'm trying to really just not work anymore. Like that's
I
I'm like I told my husband, I showed him videos of Britney Spears dancing on Instagram and I was like, this is what I want to do all day. Like I just want to sit around and make these videos. Like why can't you make this happen for
her
me? Like, this
Instagram
is
is the
my
best.
dream.
I don't know what she is trying to. I don't know what message she's trying to convey, but literally her Instagram account are just it's just videos of her dancing. She sets up her iPhone or her camera or whatever, and just tries on all these different dresses and outfits and bikinis and bodysuits, and she just like dances in a crazy fashion.
Because we have no real point here. What are your thoughts? I saw people saying that she was built like Chris Jericho, but my husband said that maybe he is in as shallow as he thought, and he's like, I think she looks pretty good. He's like,
I
yeah,
think
she's
she
a little
looks the best
older.
that she ever has, honestly. I think now, granted, Britney Spears is like she is what I would call white trash hot. Like
Okay. Oh, I like that.
she's
White
hot.
trash princess.
Yeah, yeah. I think that she's like at peak hotness right now, but you know, let's be honest, it's very white trash. It's very she's hot in sort of like a lowbrow way.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
always say to my cousin, like, I would love to go on a date with Brittany. Like, I think it would be an interesting time. I would love to sit down with her over like a candlelight dinner and really, you know, have get into
Dig
some
deep.
deep conversations and find out what's going on behind the curtains there. What really makes her tick? What is she
Yeah.
interested in? What does
Yeah.
she think about? And I'm being dead serious here. I want to know, Brittany, if you're listening right now, I want us to get together and I want to have like a deep conversation with you over dinner. And I think that, I mean, I certainly have the time. I don't have kids or a wife, or I just have a cat to feed. So I've got the time.
I
And
like the idea of you and you being Brittany's like husband. I feel like that actually is like the perfect arc for you. Like that is the perfect, like I could totally see that. Like, how do we make that happen? Please, if somebody somehow listens to this, like they just need to meet. But here's the deal with the conservatorship that she has. So her family has a conservatorship. So you would not be able to get like any, like she doesn't even really have access to her own money, right? Like, did she lose that legal bat? I don't
I'm
really
not going
know
to
what the
pretend to even know how
know what's
that
going
works.
on.
I'm just
Yeah.
mainly interested in
In
Brittany
her,
the
getting to know
person,
her.
and I'm dead serious.
So I have a quick question. I think that that's interesting. So do you think that like do you said about like white trash hot, right? Like the what is that what you called
Yes.
it? White
Yeah, she
trash.
is
There's
white
like that
trash
white
hot.
trash princess.
Yeah. Yeah, she's
There's like a
got
white
those.
trash princess aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that like all men like secretly have some kind of tick for like the white trash hot? Like what, I don't know. We don't have to conclude all races, but I'm saying, do you think that like most men, like there's a part of them that like, if they really admit it, they're like, they're into the white trash hot.
Not exclusively. I think a lot
Okay.
of guys are. I go back and forth, you know, like you find different things attractive about different
Different
people.
people. Yeah.
Like Brittany, when you look at her, like she's definitely very sexual. Like when you look at her,
Yes.
there,
Yeah.
you know, she's like just dripping like
Sexuality.
that kind of
Yeah. Isn't that
sexuality.
interesting that people there is a difference. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I'll give you an example. This is a real life example. This girl's never going to see this or listen to this. There is a receptionist at the eye doctor that I go to, and I find her so interesting because are you familiar with Sherilyn? Is that her name? Sherilyn Finn. She's the chick from Twin Peaks that played Audrey Horne. I have to look up her real name now.
Okay. Let me look because I Sherilyn. I'm sure if I see her, like I
Sherilyn Fenn.
Finn.
That's her
Okay.
name.
Okay.
I need you to look at a picture of her.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. She's very beautiful.
Yeah, she's beautiful in a very sort of retro 50s pinup classic.
Yes. Yes.
there's this receptionist at the eye doctor I go to. She gives off that vibe. Like she's
Yeah.
always dressed in a very traditional sort of 1950s
She's aesthetic.
aesthetic. And it's like not even that she's drop dead gorgeous or anything either. Like she definitely has some skin issues going on. The dental work is not impeccable, but she just has a certain aura and a certain vibe, and I
Yeah.
think that she's a good person. I dig her glasses. I just dig everything about this
Are they
girl.
the
She's
cat
like
glasses?
they're round
Okay,
glasses. They're like
okay,
the
okay.
round
You're
almost like
into the aesthetic. Okay.
yeah, I am just into her whole aesthetic now. The thing is, I don't know. I'm terrible with ages, so this girl can be 21, she can be 35. I have no idea how old. She could be 40. I truly have no idea. My
Yeah.
best guess would be mid 20s somewhere. But there's an example of somebody who's not giving off any sort of sexual vibe. I just really find her whole aesthetic interesting and attractive. But Karen, I'm at the eye doctors. What the hell am I going to say to her? Like, what am I going to say? Like, hey, do you want to come to my house and see my cat sleep in her pyramid? Like, do you like
Want some
what in God?
dominoes with me?
What? Yeah, right. What in God's name am I going to say to this receptionist at the eye doctor that I'm interested in? I have no idea.
I'm not even really sure what you I'm not I have to admit that I'm not going to be good in this situation. I don't really know what to say. If some leave in the comments, please, some advice for Colin because I'm actually speechless at this moment because I'm not sure. Like there's definitely because you don't want to come on too strong. You don't want to be like creepy because you're like, what if she's really not? I think in that circumstance, like if a girl is into you, like I don't know. It's so hard.
It's a
It's so
tricky
hard.
situation
Yes, yeah,
because you
because
don't
I
want to
feel
be
like if
banned from the eye
you don't
doctors for sexual harassment. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I completely agree. Yeah, and like what if you're like what if she's married and then you don't know and
She could be.
yes, yeah. But I think if if you were there and you saw something that was an easy in, you just kind of say something or maybe you mention something about your cat and then if you throw that out there because I can imagine if somebody that has an aesthetic might have a cat too, they may be a cat person.
She
So
might.
maybe you throw out the cat and then maybe that's a hook. You know what
Kind of
I'm
a wholesome,
saying?
old-fashioned name too. I'm not going to say what her name is.
Okay.
It
Okay.
just in the event.
Yeah.
You never
Yeah.
know. But yeah, yeah, everything about this girl is just so interesting and so alluring, and she's so like imperfect, and I just want to find out. I want to find out everything about her. How now? How did I even get to this point? I guess what I'm trying to say is that I find her attractive. I find Brittany attractive. So there's
Yes.
two
So there's
opposite
different yes,
ends
yeah.
of the poles
Okay.
that I find attractive in
That's a
different
good
ways.
point. Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. I so and like you said, there can be something that's like that person's attractive, but I'm going to put them in this category. Like they are attractive, but they are white trash hot. And this person
Right.
could be attractive, but they're classic beauty
Right. And
attract.
she could potentially be a good mother too. Whereas
Okay.
Brittany, there should not be any sort of
Yes, procreation. Although there
procreation
has
involved
been.
there.
Yes. Yeah. She
Uh-uh.
was just reunited with her children. I saw something
Good for
on the
her.
Daily Mail. Yeah. We were
Good for
definitely a
her.
pro Britney broadcast. I mean, podcast. And
Absolutely.
broadcast. We were definitely pro Britney. We were big fans of her. And I think I'd definitely take Britney over Taylor if I had to.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Brittany she seems more real than Taylor. Taylor just seems so snooty and uppity and like
Yeah.
her you know what doesn't stink.
Yeah.
And I feel like she, at this point in her career and her life, Taylor looks at herself as royalty in some fashion. You know that
She
that she
was just
feels
with
that
Prince
way.
William and the kids. Yeah. Yeah. Whereas like Britney Britney danced on Instagram so that you could play you could date Travis Kelsey Taylor. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Britney was the OG. She kissed Madonna so that Taylor could, have 400 boyfriends. It was really Britney that paved the way. But I feel for Britney. I feel for her because she was sexualized at such a young age. Like, now that I'm like almost 34, like 16 is more than half of my age now. And I look back and I think like, oh, Britney was 16 when like all those songs came, like Hit Me Baby came out, and she's like in a schoolgirl outfit, like scantily clad. And you're just like, wait a minute, this is a child. Like, why are we're telling men that they can't be with someone under 18, that it's not appropriate. But then we're going to, broadcast this wall to wall coverage. And I mean, if you've seen the Nickelodeon documentary about some of the stuff that went on with Nickelodeon and some of the sexualized kind of innuendos they had on on the television show, I mean, it's
Yeah.
everywhere. It is
It's very unsavory.
everywhere. Yeah, because I was just having a conversation with people about the as soon as I saw the new Wednesday Addams with Jenna Ortega, I didn't see a video, I didn't see a trailer, I saw an image. And I just remember thinking like, whoa, she is giving off so much, as you said, sexual energy we were talking about. You compare her Wednesday Addams, who I know Jenna Ortega, in her defense, she is like of age. She is like 19 or 20, but she's supposed to be playing like a 14 or 15-year-old, like somewhere between 14 and 16. And as soon as I saw the image of her, and you compare that to Christina Ricci's Wednesday Addams, and there's so much more sexual energy on display there. Like, I just, it triggered my instincts immediately when I saw it. I was just like, I know what's going, and I feel very vindicated in those feelings, like watching these Nickelodeon shows and seeing like Miley Cyrus and like what happens to a lot of these young girls. Britney Spears, like a lot of them lose their minds because they are being so hypersexualized at such a young age. It's just so, they're Disney stars, and the day they turn 18, they're like trailer trash whores. You know what I'm saying? And it's all by design. You know what I mean? Like, it's all by
That
design.
should be
So
the
that it's,
title of
yeah.
this the title of this podcast. Trailer Trash Horse. The title of this episode.
But yes, but I do we feel for Britney. We are big fans. And I think it is time to do a very special part of the episode. Speaking of people that have moved to Florida.
I was just gonna say, but
Yes,
before
yeah.
we get into the
Yeah, we
horoscopes
have some
here,
time. Yeah.
I think we should do Trump and Biden, because I think
Okay.
Biden's is so relevant now
I do.
too,
And he
given
had, yeah.
current events. It's interesting to compare and contrast them. But what have we really have we determined that like I should get together with Britney Spears? Is that what
I
we've
think so.
the
I think
conclusion
that
that we've come to here?
I think the conclusion we've solved. You need to create, somehow you need to manifest, which I am joking. I think that manifestation is silly, um, in most aspects. I think that somehow we need to manifest, we need to, instead of consuming, we need to create an existence, a world where you can be the white trash prince to the white trash princess, Britney Spears. You will be Mr. Collin Spears. Like, that is
I'm
what
so
we need
not
to
white
manifest.
trash though. Would that work?
Well, ooh, I don't know.
I'm
I think
genuinely.
that, yeah, I think that would work. I feel like a lot of unsuspecting men end up, like good guys are always susceptible to the white trash princess. So yeah, I definitely feel like that is the perfect arc. Like, you will not be you will not be a white trash prince, but you will be a servant to the white trash princess or something. Does that make sense? Like, you're going to be,
I'll be a slave to
you'll be
her,
the
just like that
slave
song.
to you. Yeah, to
Oh, the
you.
snake.
You will be a serf to the white trash princess. And that is the arc. That is where, yeah,
I would
that is
rather
why
be
you're
a
in Florida.
serf to Britney than to some corporation, company, business, etc., and so forth. I would be okay with that as long as she's okay with the fact that I really come from, I don't really have any money to speak of
Yeah.
here. I'm just a guy, I'm just a dude,
You
living
just
in
want to, yeah,
Florida,
you just
doing
want to
his
hang out with
thing.
her. Well,
Yeah,
maybe that is why you went to Florida. Like maybe you needed to embrace the Florida man, just exist. Not even just like, not that you really are a Florida man, but just to get a little
no.
bit closer to that, just kind of like rub shoulders with the Florida man aesthetic so that you would feel more comfortable in the presence of the white trash princess that is Britney Spears. Well, maybe that is like why all of this has occurred. Maybe that is why you moved to Florida.
I hope so, actually.
I
And
hope
now,
so
the
too.
more we
Can you
talk about this, I hope
imagine?
so.
I I know that this might upset you though, because I know that Gwen Stefani is actually like, you have a pair, you're twin flame, as they say
Well, the
on
thing with
Reddit.
her, it's more of like it's almost like more of a spiritual thing with
Yes,
her
it's a twin
than it
flame.
is.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Like
feel
she doesn't know it,
spiritual.
but you know that you have a parasocial relationship.
Definitely. Definitely.
But is it with Gwen in general, or is it that just that era of Gwen? That's a really important.
I think it might be with, I mean, granted, I do prefer her in the confines of No Doubt, since they are one of my favorite bands. I am praying that they do more shows next year, but I think that she is I like the fact that she's very religious. I sent you that screenshot the other week where she liked the Hollow app, the Hollow Prayer
Yes.
app.
Yes.
Gwen's
Yeah.
very I think she's low-key conservative, honestly. I think she's one of those celebrities that's keeping that kind of on the down low, not saying much about what's going
Okay.
on.
Okay.
But you never hear her say anything politically. I think that she and I would have a lot in common, and I wouldn't mind like working the land on her Oklahoma property, her and Blake Shelton. Like if I could just be in the vicinity, like working the land, it's like so not a sexual thing at all with her.
Okay. Okay.
It really isn't. I just want to be like close friends with her and be around her like all the time.
I can't
And
wait for
like
this to be played at your court trial when they
yeah, I know, right?
they'll be
Like
like,
maybe
they'll be like
I just want to be around Gwen
the
Stefani.
representative for Miss Stefani would like to play this for the
Exhibit
jury.
A. Oh, yeah. No, I'm not gonna stalk her or anything like that.
Okay.
But I
I
but
understand.
I did have a dream the other night I
Okay.
told you about. That for whatever reason, No Doubt was opening up for Creed of all bands, and I went to see the show in Philadelphia. And during one of the songs, like Gwen came out and like actually gave me a hug during the one song, but I didn't hug her back. And then I got to thinking, maybe that is like maybe that dream was trying to tell you something, that it's like you haven't embraced certain people, like certain people have wanted to embrace me during
You.
the course of my life, but I never reciprocated in a lot of situations. But that's
That's a
like a
whole
whole other like
that's a whole
podcast
yes,
for another
yeah.
day.
That's a whole
But
other therapy session for another day.
I felt like I shared a lot of myself on
You
this
did.
particular
You
episode
did,
here.
and that's okay. That is, yeah, that is what the performer does for the audience. That is what the clown gives to the
The
crowd.
jester.
The jester gives to the court. But so we are going to read real quick. Like you said, I think I totally agree. Should we do Trump first or Biden first? That is the
Let's
question.
do DJT first, and then
Okay.
we'll close with Biden.
Okay. So try to resist the okay. This is Donald Trump Jr. I mean Donald Trump's horoscope for today, being a Gemini, according to Sally Brompton at the New York Post. Try to resist the urge to spend your cash on pricey trinkets over the coming week. Yes, it's your money and you earned it through sheer hard work, but why waste it on stuff you will grow tired of in a matter of days? That's an interesting one. It's a little strange. And I think it's really not his money. It's really more like the campaign financing
Yeah,
to
I
make
don't
it
think he
back to
cares about
Warren.
any sort of material
Yes.
possessions
Yeah.
at all
Yeah.
at this point.
Well, we're questioning Sally's accuracy now.
Hmm.
Now on to Joseph Biden, who is a
Joseph R. Biden
Scorpio.
of
Yes.
Scranton, Pennsylvania.
He is a Scorpio. Let me double check that. I don't want to be wrong. Biden.
I think we determined this last week that Joe
Yes,
Biden
yes.
is a Scorpio.
I get nervous that I'm, yes, okay, Scorpio. Okay. For Joseph Biden, with the sun and Venus moving through one of the most positive areas of your chart, you can afford to take a few risks so long as they are not reckless. What actions can you take to make your life more exciting? So take them.
To make his life more exciting. I don't know. I think it's pretty. It's pretty exciting the way it is. I
It
mean,
is
there's
pretty
a
exciting for an 80, yeah, an octogenarian
yeah, for
who's
an octogenarian, there's a
in
lot going
dementia.
on. I
Yeah,
mean, think about it. Like
definitely.
the entire world, the entire universe right now revolves around these two old men
Hmm.
that are vying for the Iron Throne, so to speak, for the crown. And it's anybody's guess about what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody can predict what's going to happen at this point. But we are living in interesting times. That is for certain. And Karen, is there anything that I feel like we spent so much of this podcast of like me delving into my inner desires and all that. Is there anything you would like to close with here?
No, I think that thank you for sharing so much of yourself. I feel like sometimes I dominate the conversation. So it's good to hear from Collin. I think everybody appreciates it. And I think if anybody wants to leave a comment and let us know any advice you have for Collin, especially with the whole approaching eligible young women,
Yeah.
maybe not be Britney Spears. We're not
Yeah. Maybe start off with the eye doctor receptionist, and
before we work our
then
way up.
work our way up to Britney Spears, Gwen Stefani. Yeah, you know. So, alrighty, listen, I hope that, if you've hung in there this long, that you've gotten something out of this, whether it be some insight, a laugh, a chuckle, horror, I don't know. I hope you got something out of it. And we're gonna do this. Hey, we've been pretty good, Karen, sticking to our recording schedule here. Eventually we're gonna have some listenership that's not family, or
Or
we're gonna,
ourselves.
yeah, or ourselves. We're gonna increase our listenership here. So by all means, give us a subscribe, a like here on YouTube, subscribe to us on Rumble, follow us on X, and we'll be back here next week, same time, with more existential quandaries and musings on the Re-Education Camp podcast. You guys have a lovely week.